Development Board in Singapore, we just had a grand vision to make Southeast Asia the digital capital of Asia. And what that means is we want companies to create products and services to serve Asia and beyond out of Singapore. So a lot of people think Singapore is just a sales and marketing hub for tech companies, but that's no longer true. It's true to a certain extent, but actually a lot of global tech companies are building global regional products out of Singapore. This includes FANG, so Facebook, Amazon, Alibaba, Google, Stripe, Zoom, Twitter. These are the American companies that are headquartered out of Singapore, but we also have a lot of Southeast Asian homegrown tech companies which are now unicorns. So you are familiar with companies like Grab, Gojek, Carousel, C Group. And of course, the startup scene in Southeast Asia is thriving. So just to give a little bit of background of why these companies decide to base their Asian headquarters out of Singapore. So first of all, they see the market potential of Southeast Asia. If you read a lot of research reports out there, according to the Google and Temasek research on the internet economy of Southeast Asia economy just hit $100 billion and is estimated to triple in just 5 years. It is one of the fastest growing internet economies in the world. And so companies are using Singapore to tap into this market potential. Second of all is Singapore is very well known to be a structured and stable country. So even though if you look at Southeast Asia as a whole, there are about 600 million people in Southeast Asia, and only 5 million or 6 million of that is in Singapore. 300 million in Indonesia, 100 million in Vietnam, but only 6 million in Singapore. And why do they do business out of Singapore? It's because of the business environment, it's stable, and especially post-pandemic, when things are so uncertain, these are the things that businesses do value when they think of scaling and starting their new businesses. And the last one is talent. So I guess we all know that in America now, it's increasingly hard to hire foreign talent, and companies do have to diversify where they hire people from. And so if Silicon Valley is very expensive, immigration is more challenging than before. Where do they go next? A lot of them go to Europe. But then for Asia, you can think of places like China, India, and Singapore. So these are the three big reasons why companies decide to base their headquarters out of Singapore. But on the other side, I think in recent years, you can also see the growth of Southeast Asia through the flow of capital. So if you look at how venture money has flowed into Singapore, traditionally, we all think of Silicon Valley and maybe New York, right? Now, a lot of investors have set up in Singapore. You have a lot of local Southeast Asian funds like Golden Gate Ventures, Monk's Hill Ventures, but we're also starting to see a lot of big name Silicon Valley funds set up in Singapore. Not just Silicon Valley, also Chinese funds. So you have GGB Capital, the Core Capital. Yesterday, I just heard Lightspeed Ventures is also setting up in Singapore, Hustle Fund. And so if you think from an investor perspective, right, what does it mean when they invest in a region? It means that they see growth, they see potential, and they see investment views coming out of that region, and therefore they want to be part of this action. Yes, so that's just my very quick overview on why Southeast Asia's tech economy is so exciting. But I think today, if we were to focus a little bit about what are your concerns as college students and how you might think of a career opportunity, I will just give you a few advice, if I may. I think no matter where you are considering to work, whether is it in Singapore, in US, or any part of the world, you should always think like, are there opportunities in the industry, not just in a specific company that you're targeting, but are there opportunities for you to move around the industry? Not just in big companies, but are there growth companies for you to join? Are there startups for you to join? The second of all, which I think applies to any job, no matter where you go, is like, do you have a good mentor in the company? How's your team like? How's your manager like? Because oftentimes when you look at a company, you might really get really excited by what they're building, but in the end, it comes down to your team, and your team is the one that will make your career experience worth it or really bad. And the last one, I think, if we're all moving around the world and where you decide to work, right? Think about whether you have a community in the industry. So for Singapore Global Network, we are trying to extend Singapore's community outside the world, so that whether you are in the US, London, China, Indonesia, any part of the world, you have a community of Singaporeans who understand where you're coming from, who you can talk to and just get advice. Okay, so today you are going to hear from, that's just a few advice, and we can go a little bit more when we go to the AMA later. So today you're going to hear from 4 different speakers. You will hear about the different opportunities that are in Singapore's tech industry. Xuan Hong from GovTech will share a little bit about the types of jobs there are within the public sector. So if you're very passionate about using your technical skills to build technology products for public good, this one's for you. Then after that, Kim Lei will share a little bit about what the Infocomm Media Development Authority has for students like you. It could be midterm scholarships, it could be training programs, and what are different types of platforms that you can use in your career search. And then the last one is very exciting and very interesting, and I hope all of you will take advantage of, is the AMA with Wen Rui and Gloria. Both of them studied in the US. Wen Rui went to Berkeley and then Harvard. Gloria did her undergrad and master's at Stanford. And they've both interned or worked in the US, and they're now back in Singapore working. So they'll talk a little bit about how they transitioned from college to work, how they prepared for their own recruiting journey, and how their experience is like in Singapore. That's it. Okay, take it away, Xuan Hong.
Hi everyone. I see many familiar faces, so good to see everybody again. Yeah, can everybody hear me okay? Yeah, okay. So just a quick introduction about myself. I'm Xuan Hong, I'm with GovTech Singapore. So my main role is to actually do engagements and partnerships and getting in touch and helping to create with the tech community in the US. So I'm actually used to be based in the San Francisco Bay Area. However, right now I'm currently in Singapore. So today I'm actually going to share with you a bit more about GovTech and give you a quick introduction about what GovTech is about, and as well as how GovTech has actually evolved over the years. So just give me 1 second to flash some slides. All right, so GovTech. So today I'm sharing a bit about GovTech Singapore. So essentially, GovTech is quite a unique organization in the sense that GovTech was set up not too long ago, in about October 2016, so about a bit more than 4 years old now. And its main mandate is to actually drive digitalization across the Singapore government and to develop citizen-centric, efficient products and applications for the public good. So I think GovTech offers quite a unique, proposition for those who are interested to actually put your skills to help out develop products for citizen services and also for the public good. And just to share a bit more about GovTech's sort of evolution. So a year after it was set up, in about 2017, GovTech then came under the Prime Minister's office. So essentially, GovTech has the mandate to drive digitalization across government and also have the resources to do so. So before I actually go more in detail about GovTech, I wanted to share about how the notion of GovTech came about. So I think many of you would be familiar about the challenges that Singapore faced. So this came about when when the notion of smart nation was developed, and we were thinking about how do we use digital transformation to make our economy more productive, create more new opportunities for both citizens and businesses. How do we serve businesses and citizens better as a government? So with technology, there's actually a lot that we can do to actually transform the way that the government digital services are being sort of served to citizens. And it also allows citizens to co-create, businesses and citizens to co-create with with GovTech. So how do we do this? So GovTech does this by developing the digital architecture for the nation. So, and then building on the digital architecture, GovTech is able to then develop user-centric services through the different applications and products that we develop. And we do this by developing also a pro-developer environment so that we can actually encourage give the space and autonomy for our developers and engineers, product managers, and to be able to then think out of the box, and how do we create some of these products that would make an impact to our society. All right, so just some quick facts about GovTech. GovTech serves essentially the users residing in Singapore, so citizens, residents, and so on. So it's about 5.6 million users. We also have 5 capability centers, which I'll share more later on. Essentially, we provide over 600 digital services to a range of users, not just individual citizens ourselves, but also to businesses as well. And also operate and maintain over 3,000 systems and over 200,000 sensors. We have about more than 2,500 employees. Not all of those. So this includes corporate and other employees, but we have a very strong core of tech specialists in engineering who also do product management, business analysts, and so on. And we work very closely across all the different government agencies as well. So as to work together to understand the user needs, and then also then develop what's in the best interest for citizens. Right, so I mentioned a couple of capability centers that GovTech has. So these will give you an idea. So these are the 5. One would be applications. So this essentially, the bulk of it is by our government digital services team. So I think you will be familiar with actually a lot of the products that are being developed by this team, such as, I think with COVID now, all the COVID-related products like Trace Together, Safe Entry, and so on. We also have, and so the application team actually is responsible for the digital design and development of applications for citizens and businesses. The other one is cybersecurity, and this is actually very critical. So GovTech handles the cybersecurity for government agencies in general. This involves security monitoring to ensure the safety of the cyberspace. And in GovTech, we not only do cybersecurity defense, we also do the sort of penetration testing, the ethical hacking side of things as well, to test out our systems. For data science and AI, this is an interesting one. I think quite a lot of people are interested in machine learning and AI. So essentially, the government has a trove of data with citizens and businesses. And so how do we harness the knowledge and data, insights from the data, and make use of it to create solutions? And it's not just about making use of the data. I think it's also about making available, creating the the data infrastructure to allow the data to be used by by citizens and also businesses to co-create some of these solutions. And of course, the data security is also important here. So they do think about how to design that as well. We also have an infrastructure group, and they are responsible for building and manage the hosting infrastructure. So GovTech is going on this ambitious journey about building the Singapore government tech stack. So this will allow the back end to be able to help to scale up a lot of our applications and digital services across the different government services. As well as the last one that I'll also touch on is sensors and IoT. So this involves building up of our Smart Nation sensors platform. So one of the key products that we have making use of the data that we can get in environmental data and so on. Okay, so these are some of our products that I think most of you should be familiar with a lot of them. So COVID-related products, I think we have actually worked. It came out. The GovTech teams worked very hard to come out with this in quite a quick, fast timeline. And we actually also had a volunteer program to actually, and a lot of people from the community helped us with them. So Safe Entry, Trace Together, SingPass is a very important part of the products that we offer as well, not just for the individuals and consumers, but also there's a whole suite of SingPass applications that businesses can use as well. Go Business is another one. It's a one-stop portal for businesses to apply for license efficiently. And Moments of Life, or now called Life SG, essentially is a one-stop app for that actually helps an individual basically be able to access government citizen services across the different touch points from birth to childcare and so on, all the way across a person's life journey. And we're also developing it for businesses as well. eCanvas is an interesting project. I think this is one of the sort of more tech for public good ones as well. Basically, I think the Sensors IoT team actually worked with the voluntary welfare associations to develop an eCanvas that can actually help people who need some assistance to paint, to be able to do so with just their eye gestures and movements, so they can actually do it, be able to be more independent when doing paintings. So now I'll just go quickly into the journey of GovTech. What are the opportunities are there with GovTech? So these are just some of the available ones. We have a Smart Nation scholarship. So this includes midterm scholarships for those who are interested to, if you're already in your halfway through your undergrad journey and you would like to take on a midterm scholarship. We also have a Tech Associates program, and applications just open. So this is a program that helps fresh grads and accelerate your career and be able to explore the different capability centers and different products, roles and domains in GovTech. We also have internships. Internships applications are year-round, and we are generally quite flexible with that as well. So to share a bit more about the Tech Associates program, I think this is a program similar to a lot of the associates program out there. There is sort of a more planned development program to rotate people on this program across the different tech domains and be able to then share about their expertise, have mentors to help them develop within the organization. So so applications open September, and it will last until January next year. So across all the different capability centers and products, we also have interns join us, and they are, and interns actually join us hands-on on a lot of different projects and products that we work on. And you get the opportunity to learn from our engineers through technical mentoring, brown bag sessions, and network with a lot of the different mentors within GovTech as well. And I think this is the other one for Smart Nation Scholarship. So I think I won't go into the detail of what the scholarship offers, but feel free to reach out and contact me as well if you are interested in this. So this is my last slide. I just want to also point out that we actually are holding a fireside chat specifically for the Tech Associates program. And this will happen actually tomorrow, 18 September, and as well as there's another one next Monday. So there's a link here that you can actually go on and sign up for this webinar. And I think you will get a lot more information about the Tech Associates program, and the different teams within GovTech would then share with you about the exciting products that they work on. So today I've given you a very quick overview about GovTech, but if you want to know a lot more about the different products, do sign up for this. I think it will be very useful. And we also have a scholarship webinar session, so that will be on 30th of September. So these are the links. I will post in the chat later on. For any other, if you just want to reach out to chat and also to find out more, feel free to contact me at my email over here. And I also have a QR code for the Government Digital Services blog. They have a lot of exciting updates and news up there. So yeah, that's all that I have. Yeah, I think we have some opportunity for Q&A later on. But for now, I'll hand over to Gimle.
Thank you. Okay. Can everybody see my screen? Okay. Okay. Just want to make sure that it's okay. Well, good evening if you're in the US, and good morning if you're in Singapore. My name is Gim Lei. I am from the Infocom Media Development Authority of Singapore. I'm based in the Bay Area, and I've been here personally for 8 years, but I've been with the IMDA doing this partnership program in the last 2.5 years. So I've actually met several of you in my various outreach programs, and I'm so happy to see that you guys have responded and have come and joined us today. So this is what I'm going to cover this evening or morning. I'm just going to give a broad overview of, in terms of the digital economy that Singapore is building. I think most of you will be very interested in the opportunities and what are some of the programs that's available for you. Okay, just hop on. So in the last couple of years, Singapore has been making a decisive push to build a digital economy. And I think if you've noticed, that's been accelerated or expedited due to COVID. We're trying to bring as many things online and digital as possible, and to build the economy in Singapore, to build the digital economy in Singapore. So this diagram gives you an overview of the various parts of what makes up the digital economy. So at the bottom, you have all the hardware infrastructure, software infrastructure, the capabilities. And of course, we also look at the different aspect of society, helping businesses go online. So amplifying some of the e-digital adoption. And of course, that would tend to create jobs for Singaporeans or in the tech sector, and really building up the whole ecosystem, the infrastructure, and the digital economy will strengthen Singapore's external competitiveness. And of course, we cannot forget the man on the street, the citizen, the user of digital services. So there are also programs to help them go online and connect them, especially the seniors. It's really the last mile digital gap that we want to breach. Okay. So, and with that effort to push for a digital economy, this means there's demand for tech professionals in Singapore. So this is a snapshot from the manpower survey that IMDA conducts. So this is from the 2019 survey. The 2020 survey, looking at 2019, is not out yet, but we have done this survey for the last, definitely more than 20 years. And since the formation of IMDA, which is about the same time as GovTech, I believe, we have also added the component of media professional because of the merger with the Media Development Authority. Okay, and the survey has shown, and this is done by surveying companies in the industry, where are the job vacancies and what kind of job roles are they trying to fill. So you have about 20,000 vacancies over the next couple of years that they are trying to fill as well. Okay, and this is actually this reinforces some of the anecdotal things, the reports that we've seen in the media the last few months. 18,000 jobs, skills training available for Singaporeans. There are no shortage of vacancies in tech and finance. Banks are hiring coders. And this is a snapshot of what are some of the top tech skills that the companies and in the industry are looking at. This is taken from Burning Glass. So if you're interested, you can take a look. And some of the skill sets was also mentioned. Some of the areas were also mentioned in Xian Hong's presentation, such as cybersecurity, data science, and AI. So there's a need to build up capabilities in these skill sets. Which brings me to the Tech Skill Accelerator Program. It's a program housed in partnership with agencies such as SSG, Skills Future Singapore, and Workforce Singapore, WSG. So we look at programs to help boost the capabilities of Singaporeans. So areas such as 5G, IoT, and 5G because we are actually starting to roll out of 5G and trial. So we do need people to come on board to build application, to look at use cases, to be able to support the network infrastructure and so forth. So there are programs such as the company-led training program that we've announced. Actually, in the beginning of the year, we have announced it, and due to COVID, the numbers has actually gone up. So we have actually gotten companies to come on board to offer this program where they will hire individuals as well as train them at the same time. So companies that are stepping up to support this includes DBS. Facebook is also, because they're building a data center in Singapore, they also need to have data center specialists to support the programs. And then you'll see later on some of the other companies that I'll show you. Okay. And of course, Google launched their Skills Ignition Singapore program also recently to help upskill or to help people transit into jobs in this sector. So digital marketing and cloud technology, these are two of the areas that they are focusing on. So I mentioned the company-led program. So the other thing I forgot to warn you guys, there'll be lots of QR code in the following slides, but don't worry if you have no chance to snap it. I do have a list of links that I can send to you after this session. So feel free to reach out to me. So some of the companies that are hiring are like Shopee, Infosys, KPMG. So these are the various sectors. And also some of the startups doing AI like IDA. And then of course, AI Singapore has the apprenticeship program that if you're interested in this area, you might want to take a look at it. Okay. We also aggregate at IMDA. We also aggregate jobs from the industry, some of our partner companies, whether they are on our CLT program or they are on our accreditation program. They're constantly looking for people. So we actually post them on a platform called Live Hire, and this is the QR code. And of course, I'll be happy to send you the link if you're interested. Okay. And at IMDA, we do have a graduate development program where they do hire fresh grads. And I believe, depending on the time of the year, we also do take interns. So if you're looking for internship, looking for, or you're going to be graduating in the next couple of months, just do pop over to the IMDA website to take a look. Some of the other programs that we have, the support training, besides jobs, there's also, of course, the Skills Future credit that all Singaporeans 25 years and above get in an account. You can use it for approved courses. And there's also the TESA CITRET Plus MOOCs program. TESA CITRET Plus are actually called, there's a suite of courses that if you're a tech professional working in Singapore, you can actually join, you can actually sign up for some of these trainings and you get very generous subsidies, up to 90% of the cost and certification fees of subsidized by the government. And then we do have a program called the Tech Immersion and Placement Program, TIPP, where we work with coding school partners such as General Assembly, ThoughtWorks, and I'll show you the next one. There's a new one called Cybint, where they offer cybersecurity courses. What to do is you sign up for, if they accept you for, say, a long form course up to 12 weeks, upon graduation, they actually have to find a placement for you, so that you are actually kind of guaranteed hired. And if you're below 40, you get up to 70% of cost fee subsidy. So it's capped at 9,000. So if it's a $10,000 cost, you pay only $3,000, and you will work with the coding school partner to get placed, to find a job, basically. Okay, and there is an overseas version, which this slide actually describes how we will actually qualify you if you are outside of Singapore, but you're a Singapore citizen. You can actually submit an application to us, and we review the cost provider, and then if you fulfill the commitment, we fulfill the commitment of going back to Singapore to work within the 12 months of completion of your course, we will approve it. And then unfortunately, we can't let you claim the subsidy yet. You have to pay the full fees in full. And after the program, when you can prove your employment in Singapore, then you can submit your receipts for claims. Yeah, I was mentioning this is a new program, one of the latest addition to a bootcamps in Singapore. Cybint is partnering NTUC Learning Hub to offer entry level to actually prepare individuals for cybersecurity jobs, entry level jobs. Okay, if you're interested, let me know. Drop me an email. I can point you to the website. And lastly, we do have a scholarship program as well. We do undergraduate as well as postgraduate. And for both undergraduate and postgraduate, we do a midterm, meaning if you're already halfway studying and you have at least 1 year left in your academic career, you can take a look at applying for this scholarship. Application typically opens at the beginning of the year, so look out for it. Okay, so I'm on LinkedIn, so feel free to connect or drop me an email if you are interested in the list of links that I have bits through, and apologies for all the QR codes that we have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Shen Hong and Gimle. I think what we are trying to say is that it is very exciting in Southeast Asia. And I guess when you think about your career, right, in the long term, Southeast Asia is where the action is going to be. So do you want to ride this wave now, or do you want to wait till the industry has matured and developed to something closer to Silicon Valley, then you move over? These are some of the considerations that you might have. Okay, so I briefly mentioned it in the chat, but I forgot to mention, and this is a plug, stay tuned for our Singapore Tech Forum. This is our third Tech Forum, but the first one that's virtual, and I think it's bigger and better than the years before. It's going to be held in November. I think it's 17th to 20th November, Singapore time. You will hear more from companies who are growing their teams out of Singapore, corporates who are hiring out of Singapore, and how they're growing their engineering teams out of Singapore and building global products. You will also get to network with companies who are actually hiring. So that will be a great opportunity if you are looking for summer internships or full-time opportunities next year when you graduate. By signing up to this event, you are probably on our mailing list already. So once the details are out, once registration is open, we will send it to your emails and join us at Tech Forum. We hope to see you there. Okay, so now to our very last and hopefully fun segment. We're going to have our AMA with Gloria and Wen Rui. So I'll let them introduce themselves, but I will tell you a fun fact about each of them. So Gloria, when she was at Stanford, she actually was interviewed by Carly Kloss. You know that top model, Carly Kloss? Yes, that Carly Kloss. She was interviewed by Carly as part of the Code with Klossy initiative, and how Gloria works, uses her design thinking and product design work to help less privileged communities. And then one really fun fact, I don't think he can beat Carly Kloss, because who can beat Carly Kloss, is that he hates salary and he really can't stand it. Well, so do I. So yes, so I'll let Gloria and Wen Rui introduce themselves. We're gonna start off with a few questions, and these questions were taken from the questions that were submitted by you guys. We've just kind of like pieced them together, and hopefully that helps to answer some of your questions. But as you hear their story, and if you have more questions, post them in the Q&A button, and then we'll pick them up later, okay? Okay, now Gloria and Wen Rui, it's your turn. We'll start with, well, either one of you can go first, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
Gloria can go first. You have the better fun fact.
Go for it.
Okay, so wait, I'll go first. Okay. Hi everyone. So just to clarify, I don't like celery is the vegetable, not like the wage you get every month. Because sometimes when I say like I don't like celery, people look at me and like, why do you not like money? But I just don't like the vegetable. So hi, I'm Wen Rui. I finished my Bachelor's of Science in Electrical Engineering, Computer Science in UC Berkeley before I went on to my Master's of Science in Computational Science at Harvard. I recently graduated in May, and before I went for my grad school, I was actually I was interning in the Bay at Nvidia. I was doing a software PM internship, where I was the PM intern for Insight Graphics. So it's a graphics development tool that we give developers to optimize their graphics applications for Nvidia graphics cards. And right now, I'm actually serving out the remainder of my national service before I'm joining GovTech. Role-wise, I'm still in a limbo because I haven't really found a team to match with yet. But yeah, so that's me.
Cool. Yeah, I'm Gloria. So I graduated from Stanford in 2017 with a bachelor's in product design and a master's in computer science. And since then, I was working at Dropbox in the Bay Area, working on Dropbox for Business specifically. After which I came back to Singapore and have been working at GovTech in the experience and strategy design team. So I work on national digital identity, which is basically SingPass Mobile and the rest of it. Yeah, so really excited to share with you today. My grandma might be walking in the background, so thanks for appreciating her in the meantime.
No worries. We all have our pets, or I don't think the audience here have babies, but we understand. Okay. Both of you, like, I guess one thing that a lot of the students in the college students have is, how is your transition moving back from US to Singapore? Maybe you can tell us a little bit about what surprised you, what were some of the challenges that you faced, and I think these could be challenges that you faced just joining the workforce. I think that's quite a transition on its own, or whether there were some reverse culture shocks that you had after you moved back to Singapore. Yeah, just tell us a little bit about your move from US to Singapore, and what maybe some of the things that you missed, or some of the things that you are really happy that you get to enjoy now.
Yeah, I guess I can go first. So I actually moved back because of COVID. So I came back in like late March. So I guess my experience is it's a bit very much like hashtag like 2020, right? Because yeah, so I guess the shock for me was initially, like having this thing called like a stay home notice. And then you're like cooped up in a hotel for like 14 days. But beyond that, I think it's just very different because Singapore you do forget about all those creature comforts you have when you're at home that you don't get overseas. Like, you don't have to think. Food is very different. Thinking about food in Singapore and all that. So you do get that, and you feel like your basic necessities are a lot more taken care of when you're in Singapore. But at the same time, like, you give up certain stuff, like, the independence you had when you were living alone on stuff like that. So that was a culture shock for me. Like, I have to lock my door because I'm not sure who will walk in or something like that. But yeah, so I guess that was my transitioning back to Singapore.
I think this whole thing about like basic necessities are taken care of, this is something that we don't really appreciate until you join the workforce, because suddenly you are living off your own money. You're no longer spending your parents' money, and you just have to take care of a lot of things, and you start realizing how expensive things are.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Gloria.
I was gonna say both SF and Singapore are both expensive places. But anyways, yeah, like transitioning back, like for me, it wasn't during COVID. It was like during normal peacetime or whatever. But I think like there were a few different culture shocks, I would say, that I experienced having worked there as well. So on the more sort of adjusting back thing, like the living independently was a huge one. But from the working culture perspective, but I think it was also like getting used to a different working culture, where maybe like in the US, I was used to sort of, that more like assertive, like, everyone sort of voices their opinions, and then like you kind of rumble and reach a conclusion. Whereas like in Singapore, like at first I felt like it was, it felt a little bit hierarchical. And like it was just something to get to used to, and sometimes the logic of making decisions might be a little bit different. Not to say that one is better than the other, but it's really about understanding sort of that lens that in which people see things, and then like adjusting to that lens.
Nice. Like, and I guess it also comes and it gets better with time. And once you understand your team better, that tends to improve and just understand a little bit more about where the other person is coming from, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's also, I think, like the usual transition around, in a new team and stuff, like building the trust along the way.
Nice. What is I guess one exciting thing that you did at GovTech that you can share?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I feel like my work is quite exciting nowadays. Like working on SingPass Mobile has been quite a whirlwind journey, like because right now with the whole contact tracing and the whole movement for tech for COVID kind of thing, like sort of being plugged into it and seeing what that journey is like, seeing how decisions are made, how like things move really quickly. Yeah, that's been pretty fun.
Nice. Okay, and I guess for both of you, especially for Gloria, now that you've been back in Singapore for a little bit, you're also quite involved in communities outside of work. What excites you most about the tech scene in Singapore and Southeast Asia?
I can take this first. Right? I think there are two things that excite me a lot, like about this region. Like one is like in Southeast Asia, you really see a burgeoning market. You see a lot more tech startups, a lot more investments, like Jianhui said. I was in Indonesia and Philippines, like in the past year, and you also see that sort of like energy, and it's a little bit chaotic, but like it's a lot of fresh energy that I really don't get when I am back in the US. So that's super exciting. There's like a sense of untapped potential. And then like if I look at the Singapore space, like I think I was answering one of the questions as well, like there's this growing civic tech community that I really didn't expect to find in Singapore. So civic tech being like a grassroots, like people with either skills in say technology or people with like say in the social sector or in nonprofits coming together and like figuring out where tech can really plug in the gaps. Like for example, there's this one organization called better.sg, which I've really been involved in, and like we've been say looking at issues of like diversity and inclusion, or like when the whole issue around migrant workers like came out during COVID, like there were so many people rushing in to try to plug that gap. So seeing that groundswell of enthusiasm has been particularly exciting.
And you're actually not the only one who has said this so far. I think I'm in the midst of preparing for Tech Forum, and I'm also talking to different speakers who have similarly moved back to Singapore after spending say like 10 plus years in the US, and it was really surprising for them to share that they are able to explore these interests outside of work way more in Singapore than compared to Silicon Valley, where most people just talk about tech. That's really surprising. I guess like a lot of us, we think that going back to Singapore, you might lose some of the work-life balance, whatever that means anymore. But I think it's also like down to if you're really passionate about something, there are always ways for you to contribute. Yeah, Wen Rui, what about you? Now that you just moved back, are there certain things that you're really looking forward to?
Yeah, sure. I think for Southeast Asia specifically in the scene, we're all waiting for like the next big thing. Because right now, and I think that's really exciting because we're just like everyone's on the lookout, like be it like VCs or even fresh grads and all that, just thinking about what's the next big uniquely Singapore company or Southeast Asia in general. I think it's really interesting because one of the most valuable brands in Singapore pre-COVID was like Singapore Airlines. And then moving forward, like in the post-COVID world, everyone's moving to digitalization. And so everyone's asking like, what's going to fill this gap, right? Is SIA still going to be the most relevant, most valuable company in Singapore? And looking at how the Fortune 500 companies are shifting, away from banks and airlines to tech companies. Yeah, so everyone's wondering, what's the next big thing in Singapore? Is it Grab? Is it Gojek? Or is it Ninja Van? So I think it's quite exciting to see what's coming up, especially in the deep tech space. I think Southeast Asia is trying to build up that capability. How successful it is, we're not very sure, but I think we're going towards that direction, and I'm just very excited to see where it takes us.
Yeah, it's also like if you look at the startup world, if you compare it to 7 to 10 years ago, I interned at a startup during one of my summer internships, and it was completely different from how startups are perceived today. I think back then people were like, why are you interning at a startup? You're only getting $500 and like, what can you do? Like, it's such a tiny team. But I mean, if you're looking at joining a startup, like it's definitely a hit or miss. For me, it was a huge hit. But it starts down to like, do you click with the founders? Do you really believe in the products that they're building? But I think the options that you have if you are exploring this path are way more than what I had as a student intern. And that could be a viable pathway too. And it's not to say that if you choose startup, you cannot join a big tech company. There are always opportunities, and I think big tech companies do value that you have had that scrappy experience. You've tried to scale something in a startup, and whether or not it succeeded, the experience is the one that really matters. Okay, and then I guess a little bit back to Gloria and Wen Rui. I think both of you are quite active in college. What type of student activities were you involved in, and And did you feel like it helped you prepare, give you an edge during the recruitment process? And I guess broadly, if you talk about applying to jobs, how do you stand out as a candidate?
I'll take that first. Sure. So I did my BS in electrical engineering and computer science at Berkeley. So that I felt like some of my best experiences as well was in solar car racing. So it's something you can't really find. It's a very US thing. So solar car racing is basically we make our own car, then we get it certified to be road legal, and then we drive it on the road. And it's the sketchiest vehicle you ever be. So on that team, I was part of like the composites. So we make the carbon fiber shell as well as operations. So operations is like we liaise with sponsors and figure out like timelines for our vehicle. So I thought that was an interesting experience because that really made me realize I really enjoyed doing like product management, project management kind of thing. Because there's a lot of moving parts with like a solar vehicle. Will the driver die if it gets into an accident, that kind of stuff. So thinking about that, I thought it was really fun to just drive one entire project and one entire product forward. So that was how I actually decided, let's have a chance and have a go at doing product management internships or like PM internships in general. And so I guess it did help because it was when I interviewed, I did talk about it, and I think it's a very nice thing. It's a very interesting thing to talk about because it's very US thing, I feel, and it's something I'm going to remember for quite some time. Yeah.
On product management, I think someone had a question, and that was submitted earlier. It's like how technical does one need to be if he or she wants to apply to become a product manager, and how would you advise someone who's an aspiring product manager to start building that step towards being one?
Yeah, so I guess I do preface is that I myself am an aspiring product manager. So I guess it's advice for myself, right? Well, that's pretty meta.
Yes.
I think a lot of it is really knowing what you want, and in terms of technical abilities, I feel like because a lot of times when you're talking and you're working with engineers, right? There is some level of technical awareness you need to have for them to feel like. Sometimes when you talk to engineers, you get this sense of superiority that they have. They feel like they have over you as a PM. But that's why I feel like having a technical background helps in bridging that. But I feel like at the same time, it's a lot knowing what you want and knowing that what's your role in the team. As a PM, what's your role in the team, right? Are you trying to? You're not the manager of the engineers. You're manager of the product. So the worst thing you can do as a PM is to go to an engineer and go, do this, I'm your PM. So I think it's a lot about empathy and understanding where the engineers are coming from. So having that technical awareness does help, but it's not necessary. In my job, I didn't feel like I needed. I was doing the technical limits of what I was doing was scripting to make my workflow a lot easier. So it's not so much about engineering the product. As well as to aspiring product managers out there, just know what you want. I think it's a very nascent and very young field, and it's not very well defined. So I think the biggest advice I got from my mentor at Nvidia when I was working there was, she's just very clear that when you join a team, you must make sure you understand how they use their product managers, because if they don't really have a clear definition of what your role is, and if you don't feel like that role is for you, what will end up happening is you become like a spread. You become like, you just help them enter numbers into a spreadsheet, which is not what you should be doing.
Nice, thank you. Hopefully, whoever asked that question, I hope it was helpful. If you have follow-up questions, feel free to post it there. I think a few people also had questions like, how is it, if you're not in a technical major, if you're in a business major, how would you apply to a tech company? I can probably take this. I as a business and accounting grad, and I think at some point I thought I might want to work in tech too. How I would think it is, think of what you enjoy doing. So if you enjoy doing sales, like that's a core skill. So then you market your sales capabilities, like how well you sell. And I think when you look, because if you look at a tech company, they have technical roles and they have non-technical roles, right? And non-technicals are so broad. There are account managers, there are sales roles if you're working for actually all of them have sales roles, like BD roles, there are customer success, there are HR roles, and it just depends on what you want to do. And I think sometimes starting in a non-technical role can also eventually build to something that's more hybrid, like a product manager, because you understand the business and then you are slowly inching towards the tech, right? Because you understand the business, you understand what your customers want, and therefore as a product manager, you are able to communicate that to the technical team and help them understand where you're coming from, because ultimately you are building a product for your customers and you know what your customers want. So that's one way of thinking of it. I think if you're looking at big tech companies like the Googles or the Facebooks, sales is a little bit hard to join as a fresh grad, just because they do value that someone who has had experience selling, just because they're such a big company. But you can always look at companies that are slightly smaller. Doesn't have to be a startup, but could be a Series A company. Like they have raised enough money. It's a little bit more stable if you're worried about losing a job because the company closes down. But you can look at smaller scale companies that are about to scale their businesses. They already have the product that they are going to sell, and now they're going to sell it to the region. That is one way of gaining their experience. The other thing, as we talk about like Southeast Asia, is my friends are recently have been increasingly telling me that companies in Singapore do value that Southeast Asia experience, sometimes even more so than someone who has had working experience in the US. And it does make me feel like, oh no, am I starting to get irrelevant? But I think it probably depends on the company also. But that's just something to think about. Like sometimes if you have an awesome opportunity to intern in Indonesia, I would say go for it. Like even if language is an issue, Bahasa is not that difficult to pick up. But just by being in Indonesia and Southeast Asia itself, you are able to feel the excitement and the buzz in that city, and it might help you decide where you might want to go after that. Okay, any more questions? Okay, yeah, Lavan is asking, I was wondering what career progression in tech might be like in Singapore versus the US. There might be a negative perception that it's harder to climb the ranks starting in Singapore as opposed to starting within the US and subsequently moving back. This is recently this is a very sensitive topic if we talk about foreign talent. Anyone in the panel, feel free to take it, like whether it's within GovTech or from what you've seen in the industry. For me, how I will think of it is, doesn't mean that if you start in the US, it naturally gives you an edge just because you have that on your resume saying you have had that working experience. I think it all boils down to what you have done and achieved in your job, whether it's in Singapore or anywhere else in the world, and whether you can communicate that when you look at promotion. I think when you start working, you start realizing that getting promotion it's more than I guess it's a little bit about how much you have done, but there are some politics involved, and it varies across companies. But I think in the end it boils down to what you've achieved. And if you think of career progression, are you progressing within a company, or are you progressing across the industry but slowly like jumping, like software engineer and then senior software engineer in another company? I would say the opportunities across the stack, if you talk from junior, mid to senior in Singapore, it's definitely growing. A few years ago, you might see that it's harder for fresh graduates or junior talent to join the industry off the bat. But over the years, as the teams grew and the senior talent has trained up the younger ones, then you start having progression, and then it gives you an opportunity to progress within the company.
Yeah, I think I echo a lot of what Chen is saying, like in terms of like being in the US doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, your resume immediately wins out against someone who isn't. Like even from my team, when we're looking at resumes, like I think like maybe it's also as a factor of a designer, like we look more at the quality of the work or the portfolio, right? So similarly, I believe that for software engineering roles, like a lot more is around what you've created, your technical chops, etc., more than just the the company they've worked in. In terms of progression, like yeah, like I think now it's a lot more mature than in the past. Like many companies here, you already have some sort of have already established some sort of career frameworks in which you can progress upwards. Like the big Southeast Asian startups have all sort of reached that, as have most other companies that are MNC offshoots and stuff like that. So in a way, it is comparable progression wise. But of course, like one thing that you might get more like in the US is maybe more access to mentorship like early on in your career, like which might help accelerate progression by accelerating the skills you're learning. But then you also see that slowly changing here, having a higher concentration now of senior roles who are able to mentor junior individuals. That's growing as well. So I think like in a couple more years, you sort of see maybe not parity, but at least like close to parity, I would say.
Yeah, I think the need for looking for a mentor is very important as in anyone's career. Like within a company, you work in within your team, you have your manager, right? Your manager not only tells you what to do and guides you, but if your manager is not someone that you might click with, then you can look for another mentor within the company and just get advice about how to improve and progress from there. I guess the other thing is like I think it goes back to my earlier point, like how important a community is. I think especially if you're moving globally, like from US to Singapore, no matter which country you stay in, right, it's very important to get to know people within the industry, and it's not necessarily people whom you know from college, like college classmates. I guess once you start working, or even before, like now, like do take the advantage of virtual events, and now you can network with anyone around the world. Do take use of that advantage to meet new people and just get to know about their journey. If you see someone on LinkedIn who is in a role that you want to be in, and you can identify with all the career steps that he or she has taken, feel free to message that person and be like, hey, I want to be a product manager, like, and your experience looks really interesting. Would you mind having a chat? I think these are things that people are always keen to talk to a college student. I think take advantage of your status as a student. That's the time when people will happily offer you that time to chat. Yes. Any more questions, or if anyone has anything to add on? No. Okay. And I guess the last thing is just being realistic. I mean, in today's world, like not many companies are hiring. Okay, not that not many companies are hiring. Companies are slowing down because especially if you think of companies in the travel space, in the hospitality space, these are industries that are heavily impacted. It just boils down to like, where can you find a job? You know, like in the end, you do need some salary, not the vegetables. You do need some salary to survive, and you do need to get some working experience. So even if the salary might not be as high as what you might have expected, but if the opportunity is great, just go for it. In the end, it's okay. Like the money will catch up as you go along in your career. You are just in your first step, and it's really fine to go from there. Okay, well, hopefully this webinar was helpful. If you are thinking about where to work, if you're not sure how to start, feel free to message any one of us on LinkedIn if you have more questions. And of course, like, join Tech Forum in November to network with more people, build your community, if that's one advice you will take away from today. And yeah, just like, don't be disheartened in today's global economy. I think it might look like there are not as many opportunities, but it's okay. Like, just be passionate about what you want to be, where you want to work in, and just go from there. We will send out a post-event survey, and in there we will ask if you would like to meet companies who are actually hiring in Singapore in future career related events. Like, let us know, because if you want it, we can try to make it happen. If we don't know whether you want it, we might not do it, because because we are working with companies and we don't really want to waste that time also. So if you are interested, do let us know and we can try to see if companies are interested. The good thing is actually a lot of companies in Singapore are interested to meet students like you guys studying overseas, because they do value that you might have a different perspective from other candidates. So they do want to interact with you, they do want to meet you. And it's great that everything is virtual now, because then we are no longer bounded by geographical boundaries. Okay, so take care, all the best. If your midterms are coming up, good luck. And yes, thank you so much for joining today's webinar, and we hope it was helpful. See you soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.